Is it hard to take me seriously in the shirt?
I can take you more seriously in that shirt. What does that tell you about your personality?
I have no idea. I don't even know what that means.
I think it sets us off on the right foot.
Okay.
I think you wearing that shirt is almost about as bizarre as Y2K. And for reference,
Bizarre game.
for anybody at home that wants to look this up, Y2K, I haven't heard about that. You want to type in the Y2K, and you wouldn't be wrong if you're searching for it. But if you actually look at like the font, it's in the 2 is in Roman numerals, which some independent developers just got to make life difficult for themselves.
Yeah.
They got to have just this super long title that you can't type into,
One extra button.
Or, yeah.
The logo looks cool though. I
Yeah?
like it. Yeah, I like it.
So what else do you like about this game? So this is like Persona, but for hipsters? What's going on
This
here?
is throwback. Their biggest inspiration is the Earthbound series. Turn-based JRPG made by Americans. The premise really has me. It is on the brink of Y2K when everyone's panicking about the end of the world, and your character just graduated college, he doesn't have a job, he's unemployed, and he witnesses this mysterious death of a stranger on an elevator, and then just gets wrapped up in this crazy digital conspiracy. And there's this van called the Death Cab that is haunting the city and the countryside, and no one is afraid of it, but it all, wherever it goes, it brings death. So he is just exploring that and gets caught up in that.
What did you gravitate toward this because you were curious? Did you check out all games and this was just your favorite? Like, what drew you to this game at PSX?
Yeah, my time was limited, so I was in the indie section and I was walking by a bunch of games that looked really cool to me, and I still walked by. This, though, I wanted to get my hands on it. The aesthetic just I liked it.
Have you seen the stills that we have? Have you seen the stuff that they've released so far? Is that a good indication of what the game is?
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned it's in this kind of digital world. Do you ever leave that world, or is everything
Yeah,
in the
you're
Matrix,
transporting through dimensions. There's this android robot that kind of sets the events of the game in motion, and he takes you through different places. And there's just the gameplay is throwback to old school turn-based combat, which I love. I love turn-based. My favorite JRPG is Dragon Quest VIII. Just classic turn-based combat. And the cast of characters is really quirky. You have, it was just 2 of us, like the main character and this one girl, and she has a cat, and she lets the cat loose, and she has a really serious face. She lets it loose, and the cat just starts clawing at the enemy. And you can speed up combat, so the grind isn't as bad. You can just hold R2 and it speeds it along. And all the enemies are visible, like the Tales series, so you can see them on the map. And when you kill them, they're gone for good. So there's an actual sense of clearing out a dungeon, not just infinite respawning enemies. So then you're thinking, well, then how do stats really play into a factor if I can just kill every enemy? There is I forget what it's called. It's called like the Mind Dungeon. And you go to a payphone and you dial 333, and you go into this infinite randomly generated dungeon where you can get epic loot and grind forever. And then in the real world, you have to kind of find keys and talk to NPCs, and that opens up more of that dungeon. But that's also a place where you can go and just infinitely grind away.
Right. You mentioned turn-based. You mentioned you have a fascination for this genre.
Yeah.
Did you know it was turn-based when you sat down? Were you entranced by the aesthetic, and then you sat down and you were like, turn-based? Oh boy.
Yeah. I saw one battle play out there. The developer was just messing around with it. I was like, oh, turn-based. What's going on here?
So do you mind grinding in a game? I don't personally. Actually, it's not a big detractor for me if I have to do that a little bit.
It all depends. Usually, I'm okay with it. It just all depends on how engaging the combat is and if it's worth the payoff. If I'm really invested in the story and I want to see more, then I'm completely okay with it.
Do you think the speed up is like a must-have? Like if you're going to do a turn-based game in this era, you have to consider the fact that some people are just going to want to like burn their way through it.
Absolutely.
Can you sprint? Is there any kind of out in the overworld?
I didn't see that. But another interesting twist. So when you're not in combat, you're kind of in the like an overworld map area, and you have to solve different puzzles in the environment. And some of them have you set up a ladder to climb up and activate a switch. If you get caught in combat with the ladder, with an in-game item, you take it into combat and you can use it there. So it was just fascinating.
What kind of objects did you have in your playthrough?
There
just
was
out of curiosity?
there was a giant sword just in the environment, and the boss was like unbeatable unless you had this
Oh,
giant
okay.
sword. So you had to kind of get through a bunch of enemies, grab the sword, and then kind of backtrack to the boss and take it in there and fight him.
So you like the style? Have you played? Is there any other game you can maybe compare this to style-wise, or any other turn-based RPG that it feels like?
The biggest inspiration they keep saying was the Mother trilogy, which is Earthbound.
Right.
And for newer games, they compared it to Lost Odyssey, just the timing of the combat.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's just extremely narrative driven. They just kept hyping up how important the story is, that it's emotional, that it's their primary focus. The 400-page script, they just kept driving home like, this is a story you're going to want to finish.
So 400 pages meaning the script is done.
Yeah.
But the game's not done.
Game's not done.
Do we have any idea?
To quote
gonna
Ian
play?
earlier, to re-quote every indie developer, they said hopefully next year. So.
But they don't know, and we don't know if we'll get early access or we'll get another chance to take a look at it.
And they said PS4 and Vita.
Well, I mean, again, just, we haven't talked about this, but I mean, just again, to play up, if anybody was lucky enough to, to buy a ticket and wonder if it's worth to go to PSX, like, pretty fun to play some of these games that are coming up very soon, but like, almost all of those indie games are like all have question mark release dates.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun for somebody, for just a community event, for them to go and kind of feel that strange experience that we have sometimes as journalists, where we'll hear about some game and it's like, isn't that out? And it's like, no, I played that 2 years ago and they're still working on it. It still hasn't come out yet. So.
And it's just something about that too. This game went from a game I had never even heard of to on my radar now, and I'm really excited for it. Just being able to play it at the event and talk to the developers, and it kind of just gives it a hype,
Is that hype going to maintain? I mean, I know you have supernatural high powers, but are you going to be able to maintain that hype throughout the year, possibly months and months and months, until the next time you get a chance on it? When Blood steps out of his office and he's like, we got Y2K, like, are you just going to jump out of your chair and go get it? Or like in April, are you just going to be like, just kind of...
Yeah, because with Ben Moore around and Damiani, it is easy to dismiss everyone else's love for JRPGs because they are on a whole nother level. But there is always room for another JRPG.
This is a JRPG?
Love the genre. Made by Americans. They classify
But it feels like a JRPG.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So there's always room for another.
Fascinating game. Can't wait to check it out. Hopefully it's not until like another turn of the century that you get you see what I did there? But unfortunately, as much as I want to wrap this up with a quick joke, there's only one way we can end this video.
Guitars. Live to play. Play to live. Brother.
One, two, three, four. Check out my sick feet.